You can start. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and salutation be upon our Prophet. May Allah bless and bless his household. We are very pleased that IPCI has taken time out to visit us in spring, solely for the pleasure of Allah. It is in keeping with the purpose for which Allah has created us that we need to live a life of purpose. And that purpose is about passing on the message that all India has given. The Dawah of Almighty. We are very blessed in spring, alhamdulillah, through the gracious support of our business community that they have made it possible for us to establish this Dawah Center. Our vision has always been that how can Dawah redirect people's lives? The aim of the work and the aim and purpose of our life is how can we become service to humanity. That is closest to our faith. So, keeping in line with our vision, all those people, it's our duty to live their lives. Because those lives are not in conformity towards the obedience of Almighty. So our purpose today is all those brothers who have embraced Islam. We have decided that it is your goal to redirect your life towards becoming Islamic. All our lives, so our people have reversions or reverts into Islam. We want to instill it into your heart that this should be your passion. You always say, I have no job. This is our job. Allah has created us to be giving His message to the entire creation. We've been created for the benefit of all humanity. So on behalf of the people of Springs, I want to emphasize that our focus on you personally, that you have to understand that you need to value the spirit. And you need to make it your purpose. That's the only time the faith will become valuable to you. It needs not to simply stay on our tongues, it needs to enter our hearts. Without taking up too much of our time, I would love to and extend my gratitude to all who have turned up for this program, because those who have accepted the service, we want to now show you how to do the work. So, we need to ensure that you understand the how. Because in the how, it it's about what we should not be doing. The mistakes that we should not be doing when we are giving a message. So this program here, I asked the Sfiso to also ensure that it tells you that when we are doing this work, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. We thank the IPCI for taking the time to come and spend 3 days on the each land. And also, finally, our vision is very simple. Every town should have a Dawah center. Therefore, we invited people who are dedicated to doing this center is going to serve as a training base for you. Why? IPCI, we hope, will support us in our vision, and we want to use the capacity and the facility that we have in Springs. The infrastructure is here, the know-how is here, the experience is here. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given us a fair amount of experience. And IPCI now needs to take it to the next level. You see that the support is given on the east end, through Spring, and from Spring, all those who are interested, join us so that we can assist you in setting up your vision in your town. It is your duty to bring about change in your town. Remember, the difficulties and the challenges that we see every day in our towns, the evil that we see in our towns, the drugs, the criminality, is the prostitution on the street. We can't turn a blind eye. We have to ask ourselves, are we doing? We can't simply say, this is the government. Start with me. What am I doing to change the conditions? We conscientize people. How can we check the blessings of the land of the town? Right? We can implement the changes and conscientize the people towards inviting towards good. We can't change the world, but we can change ourselves first. We can influence those that we are in contact with. So I appeal to one and all. This is my message. In your locality, you have a madrasa, you have a masjid, you have a private society, you have a welfare society. Why you don't have a Dawah society? That is the concept. So you only need the spark to start a fire. So I'm asking you to take up this challenge. Being the person in your locality, find like-minded people, because this work requires the love of the creation of Allah. The success of this work is in loving Allah's creation. And what I've observed, we fail to see that Allah has created us in the best form. We haven't taken the time to love ourselves, and to love the next human being. We need to create this love to see that everybody, irrespective of the stature, even the person who's sleeping on the street, he is Allah's creation. Success lies in showing our love for what Allah has created. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time off to attending this course. You are at liberty at any time to take advantage of the resources in this place. We want to ensure going forward will come to your community to give you some support. It all starts with yourself. Yeah, this is your training words. This is because you are pregnant. You need to treat each another as family. Then it comes spontaneously. Shukran for your kind words.
Just to make sure that those who want to take some time of time while the program is going on, just to know who has done. Paper and the pen so that we can get the answer. Those who have let me know who organize it. We need that pen and the paper down. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم على آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Our brothers, barakallahu fikum. Inshallah, most of what we will be going through are some verses in Ahadith in the various aspects of how the Prophet would go about his da'wah. So mostly it will be looking into the ayat that I outlined of how da'wah is done itself, while also looking somewhat into the way the Prophet did it, and we will also see maybe some other requirements that may come in so that we can implement the Son of Prophet with the 8K by sound good with you. Now, so with Dawah, as we, for those who are with us during the Duma, we understand that there is a lot of benefits, and those benefits are needed by Muslims. Everything that Islam legislates is for the benefit of mankind in general and specifically for a Muslim. And so hopefully our session is going to do justice to that, and obviously knowing that we do have our shortcomings and shortfalls, we ask Allah to overlook our shortcomings and shortfalls and to make what is beneficial for this city to be stamped in our hearts and also raised and made happy on the scales of our good deeds. And to make this as a means or a beginning of something great when it comes to the work of Dawah. As we mentioned, there's a great need for it. Bless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this kind of activities and enthusiasm and desire of people to be involved in such a noble task. So we want to look at some few aspects, merits rather, or what Dawah has by a person. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And who is better in speech than one who invites people to Allah and does righteous deeds and says, I am of the Muslims. Meaning, his goal is Allah. His goal is to bring people back to their Lord. But also his goal is that he implements the deen, which is the righteous action, because in and of itself, dawah is a good deed, provided it's done for the sake of Allah and it's done according to the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's for the sake of Allah according to the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The ulama has mentioned that these are the two conditions for any action to be accepted. Any action that you do as a means of getting closer to Allah, you check it in those two aspects. Is it for the sake of Allah? And am I doing it according to the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Why? One thing can be done in many ways, correct? But a da'iyah, a Muslim in general, he knows he does not do things his way. We don't wing it, as people say. Don't just gonna wing it. No, we don't wing things in Islam. We do them in accordance to how they have been legislated by Allah and according to how they have been implemented by who? By Muhammad sallallahu alaihi. Now, the merit in this ayah is the fact that Allah does not put someone, because anyone can speak. But Allah says, there is no one better in speech. That is the point being made. There is no one better in speech than the one whose speech is calling towards who? Towards Allah. Meaning, he calls people to the worship of Allah alone, as we mentioned, the issue of shirk. People are worshiping Allah with partners or sometimes substitute Allah with others. So this person is calling to the greatest there is, which is Allah. And hence, the status of his speech in and of itself is that great. That the nobility of knowledge is based on the nobility of what the knowledge is about. Meaning, if what you know about is an insignificant thing, then your knowledge as well is insignificant. It's due to the things that you have the knowledge about. For example, if I know how many dust particles under my shoe, this type of knowledge, is it significant or no? Pretty much insignificant. Why? Because it would not bring me anywhere near Allah, nor would it help me in my worldly affairs, isn't it? So it becomes, if I was to say, give me some time, brother, I want to tell you something that I don't think you know. Did you know that under my shoe right now, there is such and such dust particles? Right? How would you feel about that? Like, and then, what should I do with this information? Correct? So, when it comes to the speech that is about Allah, then this becomes the greatest speech. And this person becomes someone who's involved in the most greatest of activities. And this is what a da'iyah does. The one who calls to Allah, not to himself, not to his party or his clique or his group, but he calls to Allah. Allah also tells us, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Then let there be a group among people, among the Muslim Ummah, that invite to what is good, and that the good that is referred to is Islam. Why? Because Islam has the good or the first matter in it, which is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. We are not the only ones who believe Allah exists, but we are definitely the only ones who that knowledge and that belief is practically implemented in our actions. Because we know people who believe there is God, but they worship other things with Allah. And there's no virtue in that. And so when Allah mentions that these people they enjoy what is good. And what is good is the worship of Allah alone, which is the Tawheed. And Islam, basically all the aspects of Islam. Any aspect of Islam that you call towards to for the sake of Allah, that is from Al-Ma'ruf. And you forbid what is evil, and the topmost of evil is shirk. The second in line is what? Who can, I hope I didn't write it down here. Who can tell me what would be the second action which is despised and despicable that a person can be involved in after shirk? Any takers? Now, Bid'ah, Jazakallah khairan, Hayyakallah. Someone would have said zina or alcohol and things like that. Now, if you look at shirk, what does shirk oppose in the matters of Islam? It opposes Tawheed, which is the first aspect of the Shahada. What does Bid'ah oppose? The Sunnah, which is the second aspect of the Shahada again. And what does a person require to become a Muslim? These very same two things which are one of the Shahada. So, it is necessary then that a person understands that when he comes to Al-Ma'ruf, his priority are these things which are the first and foremost matters when it comes to Islam. Which is La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Because no one says La ilaha illallah means I will not worship anyone else. I'm not going to commit shirk. I denounce everything and everything that is worshipped beside Allah. And also I declare that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one to be followed. Meaning his way of doing anything is the only way of doing it right. And so when it is mentioned that they do good deeds in the ayah that we have seen, it refers to that particular aspect. Now, what is the merit of these people? Allah says, وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, that these are the successful people. These are the people of success. And this is the benefit. Who doesn't want to be successful? We all want to be successful. And you want to understand that in the Quran, when success is mentioned, it's not merely worldly matters. Someone may think, hey, mashallah, if I do dawah, I'll become rich. No, you misunderstood it. If I do dawah, I'll have all my dream car, my dream house, and my dream wife, and all kinds of things. No. This is not what success is in Islam. Because this is given to a believer and a disbeliever. And it may be given to a disbeliever more than the believer sometimes. But the true success is when Allah says, that enter with my servants, enter my Jannah. This is what success is. And so this is among the merits of Dawah. Then it becomes a means for one to enter Jannah. May Allah grant us Jannah, all of us. And strengthen us and make us take these means, because every single thing that is legislated in Islam, we are in need of it. And Dawah is one of them. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, "Man dalla ala khairin falahu mithlu ajri fa'ilih." Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a reward like the one who did it. Imagine I'm slamming in my practice, but I invited someone else to be involved in the same practice of being. And maybe he is granted the tawfiq of being more prolific than myself. And whatever he does in this regard, I'm also involved. So I am like investing in this person. As I said yesterday, we are business people in one sense or another. Because we want to profit in anything, any activity that we get ourselves involved in. Generally, this is how we are. And so, among the best of those investments is to invest in the work of Dawah, inviting people to Allah, inviting people to Islam, inviting people to do it righteously. That's why if you look at the issue of Adhan, for example, what is the one thing the Muaddin benefits? Is that through his call, people come to perform Salah. So he has a share in that. That's why the adhan is not recorded and replayed. The adhan is done live, and this is interesting because you could record it. We have adhan apps. People with most beautiful voices than ourselves. But still it becomes necessary that you are there yourself. Make the adhan. Because there is benefit behind it. Because there is what? There is benefit behind it. Every single time the walls are vibrating because of your adhan, they will testify on the day of judgment. This man used to call people to this place of worship, and they will come in their numbers because of the loudness of his voice. Okay, because of the sweetness of his voice. You have people who are sitting not paying attention, they're in ghafla, negligence. They don't know whether the sun is rising or setting. And the muazzin, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then subhanAllah, they wake up. Your voice, it reminds them, there is Allah. They're watching maybe what you call the NFL, or I don't know what these soccer tournaments and things like that, whatever the case is. And then you tell them Allah is greater than that, and then they come and pray. Imagine then, someone is in the darkness of darkness. Dulumat, fawqa, dulumat. It's darkness upon darkness and upon darkness, compound darkness, which is the darkness of disbelief. And there you are. So let us light up this house for a bit. How does it feel now that you can see where the table is? You'll be happy. So let us put more light. They can see everything now. They can see each other. Imagine they were living in the same house, they were missing each other because they can't see each other because they're so in so much darkness, and then you come there and light up the place. So it's not something light, and it's not something small, brothers. And this is the merit of Hidayah. One of the things that raises the status of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the fact that everything that we do according to his sunnah is also registering for him. That is why he is not in need of our charity in our actions. But we need his guidance and his way to become rightly guided. That is why Allah says, وَمَنْ شَاقِّ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. The one who opposes the Rasul and he follows another way other than the way of the Sahaba, meaning the way of the believer, the primary believer of the Sahaba. After the guidance has been made clear to him, meaning the Sunnah, the truth that the Prophet ﷺ came with. And so you can see that turning away from the way of the Rasul ﷺ is tantamount to being misguided totally. And not only that, it leads to the hellfire. And that's the terrible destination as Allah says. What a terrible destination. And so look at yourself calling to Allah. And look at yourself calling to the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also not leaving yourself out by the way. These are the merits of Dawah in and of itself. And we can go on and on. But I think these days suffice as a benefit. Now, why should we do Dawah? And what should be our target, or what should be our aim? These are the goals of Dawah, because Dawah is an act of worship, as the ones mentioned. It is an act of worship. Every act of worship in Islam has a way, and it serves a purpose. So for Dawah, what are some of those goals of Dawah? The topmost of it is to attain what? The pleasure of Allah, because it's an act of worship. An act of worship becomes an act of worship once it's done only for the pleasure of who? Of Allah, not of my employer, not of my friend, not of my own self. I may enjoy something, but this shouldn't be the primary reason why I'm doing it. And I may, find what you call fulfillment in what I am doing, but this shouldn't be the main reason for doing it. And so, if anything, we do it for the sake of Allah. This is the goal. We want Allah to be pleased with us. We want Allah to be happy with us. And we hope for that which Allah can give us if He is pleased with us. Because if Allah is pleased, He pleases Himself. As we said, it is the fulfillment of what we are commanded with. It is to al-amru bil al-ma'ruf, that we command with good. So it falls under that we are commanding. This is the goal of Dawah. Allah is pleased when good is implemented and is being commanded. And so the pleasure of Allah is connected to that. And as we keep emphasizing that the topmost is at-tawheed. Hopefully it becomes very apparent to the Da'iyah with regards to the fact that when he does his da'wah, he wants Tawheed to be established. This is his target. So his talking point in anything is what? Tawheed first. Everything else can come after that. All the good benefits that we get out of Islam, like living a drug-free life or an alcohol-free life and so on, these are inevitable when a person fulfills Tawheed. Because you take care of the right of Allah, Allah takes care of your rights, and Allah rectifies you. Certain societal sicknesses and issues that we have, some of them cannot be cured through medication or medicine and injection and programs, but rather they could be fixed and rectified by our position and relationship with Allah. I see some brothers, they're having a hard time saying, "Do you prepare send?" Is it okay if I'm sitting? Alright, Jazakumullah khair. Maybe the next session, then I can stand, inshallah. Now. And we forbid evil, brothers. This is the goal of Dawah. When you see evil, and the Prophet said, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran, falyughayyirhu biyadihi. فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه وإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان." The Prophet said, whoever sees a wrong, he should rectify it with his hand. And if it is not possible for him to do so for whatever prevention, because sometimes it could be the case, then with his tongue, then he speaks up against it, following the right way of doing that, by the way. Because if you rectify with the hand, may not always be applicable in the first instance. Maybe speaking may be more preferable in the situation. Every situation, for every situation, there is the necessary actions and statements to be made. You could see someone doing something wrong and it might not be ideal for you to right away tell him, "Yeah, brother, what you doing? Haram this, haram that." You might want to call him aside. Talk to him, get to know him. I noticed that when you were performing your salah, you added an extra rak'ah. I don't know if you were aware that your ruh actually was 5 rak'ahs. You understand? With adab, with mannerism, once again, you're doing it not to just execute the command, but you want to make sure it is acceptable as well. It is in a way that is easily welcomed by the person. And we can discuss this separately on how to, advise the brother, how to advise the person, and so on and so on. Because all of that is part of wisdom, as the Quran tells us. وَادْعُ إِلَىٰ سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ. Call to the way of your Lord with what? With wisdom, وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ, and also with a good discourse. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. You want, when you happen to have a back and forth with the person, then do it in the best way it can be. Meaning it mustn't end in some shuffling and some grappling and some judo happening or some karate. It shouldn't get to that point. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And so, when you see a wrong, it's necessary to rectify. And the area to see it as his priority. There's a lot of wrong happening, like others being worshipped besides Allah. And it should make us sick in the heart. We ask Allah to make us love Him so much that we hate shirk when we see it. That we hate it even in our hearts, because there's another level of it. That you can't rectify with your hand. You can't speak against it, because maybe you are not in a position to actually speak against it in such a way that it's going to bear effects. Because you're not doing it just for the sake of doing it, as we said. But also what? Also you hate it in your heart. There could be a situation where you can't rectify with your hand. And there could be a situation where you can't speak up against it. But the one aspect that must remain is the fact that you hate what you are seeing in your heart. Because that's what is going to drive you to try to do something about it. And so if you are happy with people being misguided, we ask Allah to protect us from such a situation. When you see misguidance and it's like, no issues. When you see wrong, if someone is getting wrong, you're seeing someone, being seeing a lady being molested. Why was she wearing what she's wearing? You have people like this. The sister, yes, she is wrong in her own way, but it doesn't justify the guy from doing what he's doing to the sister, correct? So you should be hating it both ways. Tell the lady, sister, next time try to dress her really proper. You stop messing with women. You get my point? But if your heart does not feel this way, then you can imagine. The Prophet ﷺ would be angry at someone saying, Masha Allah wa shit. That what Allah has willed and you willed. He asked, Aja'altani lillahi niddan. Have you made me equal to Allah? Must just say, MashaAllah, finish, that's it. And so it's very, very necessary to understand that as a Dawah, it must be the case that this is how you are, this is your condition. You ask Allah to make us like this. That we love for His sake and we hate for His sake. And then it sickens us when Allah is not worshipped as how we should worship. Then it troubles us when the Messenger ﷺ is opposed in the actions of people while we are there observing and seeing. Such that we shouldn't feel comfortable when a bid'ah is happening and then we are sitting there just waiting for it to finish. It should be so painful to us that I can't stand this anymore. If I can't speak against it and I can't rectify it or put someone else who's going to speak upon the Sunnah and do things accordingly, or when the disbelief is being spewed by people, they're discussing matters which are tantamount to being a disbeliever, and you are sitting there listening. And sometimes these also comedy shows. Certain comedy shows, subhanAllah, some of the kufriyats that have been mentioned, and we are sitting there laughing, is very dangerous. So we ask Allah to make us to put in our hearts the love for Him and the hate for His sake. That is necessary and relevant to the situation in this particular time. So the goal of Dawah is to please Allah. Not to be people to be pleased with you, because they may not necessarily be pleased with you. They were not pleased with the best of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When they loved him, they admired him for 40 years of his life. They knew no one better among them than him. But as soon as he said, Qulu la ilaha illallah, declare that there is none worthy of worship in truth except Allah alone, then they said, he's crazy. He's a magician. He's a poet. Then they gave him names they never gave him before. They used to call Sadiq Al-Amin. Then the nickname did that. When they were deciding who's going to put the black stones, when they were rebuilding the Kaaba or innovating it, they were arguing among each other. They were saying, hey, it's us because we are this and that. The other Sheikhs asked me, they said, you know what the best way is? Whoever is going to walk in here or is going to come here is the one who's going to decide who puts the black soap. And when they saw Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, everyone was in peace. They said, this is the best candidate for this. But as soon as he got to Allah, they drove him out. He plotted to kill him. That's why it cannot be for the pleasure of Allah. You're gonna touch some nails, brothers. You're gonna check with some cords with people. And so it is necessary to know that your goal is to please Allah. So that even if the whole community is pleased with you, as long as you know Allah is pleased with me, and I've done justice to my duty to Allah and to the Sunnah of Rasulullah is implementing it, then you know you've done your part. Like our Prophet alayhi salam, this was the case. People call him all kinds of things, they didn't like him. Probably when he was showing up, they tried to take another route. They tried to go elsewhere, maybe change the direction. They wouldn't be listening to him. You know how children, when they are like ignoring each other, they go, la, 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 la. You might come across that before. So you have to know that this is for Allah. As I mentioned, the Sunnah is also mentioned. It's also a way. When the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, convey from me, Balli Wani, Walau Ayah. That convey from me. This is an arm from the Messenger ﷺ. It's a command. So when you say Muhammad Rasulullah, you say, I will do what he commands me. And I will avoid what he prohibits me from. And I will believe in everything that he told me about. And I will do those things that please Allah the way he did them. These are the conditions of Muhammad Rasulullah. And so when a person does any aspect, he checks it with that. So you can't say, no, it's not for me. For the Sheikh in the masjid, you know, the Allama who did 6 years, the 7 years, the graduates, no, you have your part. You could not be the one who speaks because you know you are not eloquent. But you should definitely be the one who brings those who can speak. Or you can aid and assist those who can speak on your behalf because they're involved in it. You've done your part. This is the goal of Dawah. Not to become accepted by people. If people accept you, alhamdulillah, good for the Dawah. But this is not your goal. Your goal is to make sure I please Allah and I do fulfill what the Messenger of Allah asked me to do. That convey for me. Even if it's just one ayah. And this does not live up the Sunnah as well. When you see the Sunnah being violated, you can advise the brother Yaqi. The Prophet didn't do it like this. This is how he did it. Still part and parcel of that. It's not only the ayahs of the Quran. Some people, you know, they are more well-versed about certain ahadith than the ayahs of the Quran. This is still part of it. You see someone eating with his left hand, you know that it's the right hand. Yeah, and the Prophet informed us that it is shaitan who eats with the left hand. And so I implore you to try if you can. If you are a left-handed person, it's a task. I'm a left-handed person, and so I had to. I had a teacher who used to say, when he finds me eating with my left hand, eat with your right. And I'll be annoyed with him for some time. But he never stopped. And today I'm the one troubling people and say, eat with your hands. Because it doesn't change the good he was calling me to. You understand? With the fact that people accept it or not. And I hope our goal is not to be accepted by people because you tend to compromise in that process where you start watering down your dawah. You start diverting from the main objectives of those things that you want to implement and do. And the goal of the da'iyah is to not be in the light alone. He doesn't want to be in the light alone. He wants other people to be guided as him. Because if you love something, don't look for to tell others about it. I can tell you right now, if you had the best meal in one restaurant, when you go home, you're going to be telling them, hey, the meat over there was so nice and soft. What an amazing program we had. You know what a beneficial lecture we listened to. You know, what a beautiful cow we saw passing. The owner of that car or that shop or whatever restaurant, they didn't ask you to do what? To do an advert for them, but you automatically do that. And so if Islam means anything to you, then it should be such that you want other people to have it. You just can't keep quiet about Islam. You just can't sit still when you can see that this person would have been better if he was a Muslim. And so your biggest goal as well is to remove people from the darkness of disbelief to the light of Islam, the light of Tawheed, the light of the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So because this is a task here, everyone, it comes with requirements. There are things that are needed. There are some of the things that are needed. And I've pointed out some, and there could be more. Because it might also take the shape of what are you calling to, and what is the reason for that dawah at the time. For example, as we once mentioned, that if you're meeting someone who's not Muslim, then what is the priority there? Is to speak on the point of Islam, which is the right of Allah to worship alone, and the right of the Messenger to be followed and obeyed. But you could meet a Muslim who is lacking in other aspects, and then so your dawah is going to be a bit different than the one you had when you were talking to that Christian, Jewish, or non-Muslim. And so there are some of those things that may be valid through that, inshallah. And so I want us to look at some of these requirements. This is the first one. Your dawah has to be very sincere, brothers, because it's an act of worship. It must be done with pure, sincere intentions. Allah says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. They were not commanded except to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in religion. Meaning every aspect of their deen, they do it with sincerity. Not for fame, not for acceptance as we mentioned, not to become, the talk of the town, not to become the most dynamic speaker or daya and whatnot. Not to become famous, no, for the sake of Allah. And so it is required, and I advise that you check yourself when you get yourself involved in something. What is my intention for doing this? Is it for Allah? If then, alhamdulillah, I can go ahead. Hunafa, inclining to the truth. Meaning declining from falsehood. The truth of Islam, the truth of Iman, the truth of Tawheed, the truth of the Sunnah, declining from everything that is the opposite to that. Being distant from it. Hunafa, you are bent away from these things, bent towards what is correct and what is right. You are inclined to that. And to establish prayer and to give zakah. And that is the upright religion. So the sincerity of intention is among the matters that are necessary for any action that you are doing. And they can't be free from it. And dawah cannot be free from your intention. And the success of it is mostly and highly dependent on the purity of the intention. And your intentions, if they are wrong, your dawah could actually crash and crumble or bear no fruits. But if your intentions are correct, even if your dawah is not the most successful, it will still have very, very significant fruits. Either for yourself individually, because it's a worship of Allah, so it's accepted by Allah, and you are rewarded for it. And it may sometimes you won't even see the fruits in your own lifetime, but they happen after you. Because of the sincerity that you brought to it. The Messenger said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. That all the actions are by their intentions. Meaning there is no deed that is done before Allah except that it's based on what the intention that drove it. Because whenever you do something, you have a reason, isn't it? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You have a reason why you're here now. You have a reason why you're attending this. You have a reason, teaching your bed in the morning and coming here. May Allah make our intentions pure. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing because there are many reasons that you can do something, but the one reason that is necessary is the pleasure of Allah. And so when you do your dawah, your intentions must be sincere. You could be very prolific and you like the interaction, you like the hype that happens when you're on the scene. When you're discussing with people, I hit them left, right, and center with this. I tell them this, and then they are speechless. Alhamdulillah, I hit them with Ahmed Didat style, hit you with Zakir Naik style, and then hit them with so and so style. And that's it. I get all of them quiet. You know what I said? And you can tell from a person's speech sometimes what is his intention. If he's debating just to win the debate, you will know. And when he's arguing just to win the argument, you will know. When he's trying to impress people, you will also know at time. And so the intention has to be very important. The second requirement is knowledge. It's necessary. You can't do anything you do not know. You can't do something you don't know. Because you don't even know how it's done. Now, you can't do something you don't have the knowledge of. And all the things that you must have knowledge of is what you are calling to. You must know what are you calling to. If you are calling to Islam, you must know what is Islam. You yourself. If you are calling to Tawheed, you must know what is Tawheed. If you are calling to the Sunnah, you must know what is the Sunnah. Now, so it is necessary for you, because if you were to call someone and say, what are you calling me to? And then you say, I don't know, but come with me. Are they going to follow you? Say, come with us, we're going somewhere. You ask you, where are you going, guys? And you don't know. You say, don't worry, we'll find out when we get there. There's no way you're going to get a photo of it, correct? So you ought to know what you're calling to. Now, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. This is apparent in this ayah, that this is my way, I call to Allah. The Prophet says, عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ, based on what? Knowledge. تَبَعَنِي, those who follow me. And so we are upon the path of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so we must know what we are calling to. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given what is that he should be calling to, which is Allah, the worship of Allah alone, and the denouncement of anything other than Him that is worship. Ala basirati, which means with clear insight, clear information and understanding and knowledge. And so it is necessary for the ayah. Wa subhanallahi wa ma ana min al-mushrikeen. Why you are free from shirk? You must be free from the opposite of what you are calling to. Because you can't call people to be healthy, but you yourself you are so unhealthy. For example, we call people to fitness, as a man, you must have like good biceps and all those kind of things that say, yeah, show us yours. And then you're like, don't worry about me. There's no way it's going to be as effective, And it would be a loss on your part that you are like a billboard or you are like a board that tells people how to get to the right place, but you never go. We don't want to be like this. We don't want to be road signs, brothers. Don't be a road sign. The road sign tells you how to get to Springs, Third Street, the Musalla, or how to get to the center. But has it ever been there? No. Is it ever going to go there? No. Calling people towards you yourself are there or you're going there. At least you know where you're going and you know who you're inviting to come with. But I would mean it is necessary. It must come from there. It must be based on there. Part of the knowledge is to know what to prioritize. What do I begin with in my Dawah talk or in my Dawah conversations with people and in what I distribute? Yesterday, alhamdulillah, when we're doing street Dawah, we're giving materials. But sometimes there are some materials which are secondary, there are materials which are primary, and this must be known by the Dawah. Or when you're talking to someone, for example, you have a center, because this is the goal as well, you have centers of Dawah, right? So you are there at the center, someone comes and approaches you, he wants to talk about something, and then you know exactly what he's talking about, and you ought to know that this person, for example, someone may ask you about whether the Prophet ﷺ is really truly a prophet or anything like that. So you can't tell him about the 5 pillars of Islam, you can't tell him about Hajj. You must give him the material that is relevant to what he's inquiring about, and then you can complement it with others. Even when you're giving different materials, tell someone, start with this material, please, and then follow with this one and follow with that one. Because certain materials are introductory and they will make them understand this, the subsidiary matters after that. And so this is a requirement for the da'iyah that he must have that in place. The second thing is to know the proofs of what you are calling to. What are your evidences for this? Where do you take this from? Where can I refer it to? Some people, they just want to, like yesterday we met one guy, he said, I read about different religions. I still want to read the Quran nicely and properly and completely. And this is a very interesting thing. He read the Talmud, he read the Bible, and then unfortunately his Quran that he had, a copy of translation that he had, he said it got stolen when he was in the interim of reading it. And so, alhamdulillah, we organized with my sheikh there in the back to get it to him. We met him with him, alhamdulillah. And so, you have people who will not just take your word for it. And they should be. It's not a must that they must take your word for it. Because you could be lying to them, right? You could be lying, through your teeth. So they must know this person is speaking on something that I can verify. Because you make a claim, you must provide the proof. And so you claim that Islam is the real thing. Prove it to me. You say, Allah said this way. You said the Messenger of Allah said this way. I want to see the words of your prophet that he said this. Because some people, they are holding back from Islam because they have not come across it in one statement of the Prophet Allah that is convincing to them. They think you are trying to win them over when you're speaking to them. You don't have anything that is. This is one of the reasons why reading material is very necessary. You engage with someone, but give them something that they can always go back to and refer to, and they can take the time to make those references. And we must understand that the evidence of a Muslim is the Quran and the Sunnah. Other things, they may be complementary to that at times. Because why I'm mentioning this, usually sometimes, if we new Muslims, if we got to be interested in Islam through some debate we watched, and as a Christian, I heard Ahmed Tidat saying something, and it hit me to the back of my head, I realized, I should be a Muslim. But then you also want to go that very same route, and you didn't understand anything of your Islam and what speaks to your Islam, or what proves your position, and you then start getting involved in comparative religion, which most people are interested in this. And yet they do not know even one single ayah that proves the first pillar of Islam. They don't know the one hadith that proves the first or the pillars of Islam for that matter. For example, you will ask, what is the hadith for the pillars of Islam? And you're telling people, Islam is 5 pillars. Shahada, and Salah, and whatnot. Where is the proof for it? Yeah, I had a sheikh, when he was, this is common knowledge. Some people say, no, this is common knowledge. But where is the proof for this common knowledge? And so the proof for you, Akhi, is the Quran and the Sunnah. If someone says, where do you get this point? You should say, I get it from the Quran. I get it from the Sunnah. And if the Bible confirms it, then you say, also this is even relevant and also available in your Bible. But don't say, yeah, but the Bible says it's the Bible. Then tomorrow you're telling them, yeah, but the Bible is corrupted. We can't check everything. You proved it, used the proof a moment ago. And why are you now bringing it as a misconception or as a problem or as a reason why I should move away from it when you prove your truth through it? You understand? And so the truth of a Muslim is in the Quran and the Sunnah, and all the aspects of Islam that is calling to must be based on that primarily, and if not, be sufficed with that. And if you have enough that caters for that, only go to other matters if it's required. For example, people, they may discuss certain scientific matters and they want to go to scientific journals and whatnot. This is not your proof because this scientific journal can change tomorrow. And we know the wahi of Allah is preserved. And so we stand on that. And we must try to be prolific in that. Know this ayah that speaks to this, know that ayah that speaks to that, know that I need to speak. Understand? So any other thing is just because we do not need these things to prove Islam. Now, we do not need these journals. We do not need these theories and facts and that are proven in the lab. People when they're speaking about COVID and things like that, they start bringing those ayats and those hadiths and whatnot, to let it conform, to prove science with it. Whereas the science that needs to prove is what? Its position, its facts. Because it's a trial and error method. And so what is in the Quran, there's no doubt about it. What is in the authentic Sunnah, there's no doubt about it. Whether they accept it or they deny it. And usually they deny it not because it's incorrect. They deny it because their souls desire something else other than what Allah has provided for. And so never feel ashamed to use the Quranic verse. Someone will say, yeah, but they don't believe in the Quran. You said Muhammad was said to people to believe in the Quran? The answer is no. Yet Allah said, say to them, say to them, say to them, say to them. Now, they asked a question, he didn't prove it in what was written. In what was known to them, for example, he waited for a hadith, or I'm sorry, he waited for wahi, the ayah to come, and then he would then give it to them, and then they can either accept or reject. Because at the end of the day, if they see the truth, they will definitely accept it. And they won't care where it's coming from, if it is the truth. And so never feel ashamed to use the Quran as evidence, or to use the Sunnah as evidence. And if not, make that your priority in your da'wah, that it is the Quran that I speak from the perspective of, and it is the Sunnah that I speak from the perspective of. And you must know, as I mentioned earlier, you must know what material to give who. Huh? You can't go to a Hindu and then give him, pamphlet about some contradictions in the Bible. You get it? This is a Hindu person, you're giving Dawah to him, then yeah, yes, I'm getting it. Some issues with the Bible is not preserved, and so on, is the Bible not to work, and things that you must know what kind of material is relevant to who. Even the issue of language, for example, you're speaking to someone, English is not giving a language that he speaks and giving the material. You want to articulate that. Another knowledge that you must have is of the conditions of the call. The condition of the person you're doing down to. You must know it. Either by means of asking questions, which is very, very important. Don't just come and say, come, listen, I want to tell you about Islam. Give me 2 minutes. No. Find out what they know. Like yesterday, the brothers who were with me, they remember, when we were meeting someone, we'll give him material, and then if we see he has time to talk to us, we'll ask the question. So, brother, what do you know about Islam? Then they tell you, hey, well, honestly, I know nothing. I almost said they say, Wallahi, because we say, Wallahi, I don't know anything about this. I almost said that's what they say. But they'll say, I don't know. They'll just say, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about that. Nah. And so now it's up to you to realize that where to start from. Because you have established now that, okay, so if you know something about Islam, then you can build on top of what he knows and give his clarification or his misconceptions. Then you can rectify the misconception and then go back to the drawing board, which is your priority. The right of Allah to be worshipped alone. Because we've seen this where people they engage about all these scientific aspects that Islam conforms or Islam agrees with and whatnot, and then the whole conversation is 2 hours, but then there's no shahada there, no there's any understanding about the right of Allah to be worshipped alone. And so the whole conversation is about that philosopher, that scientist, and that physicist, this is what he said, and also in Islam we have this concept. You have all these commonalities, but yet they do not lead this person to realize that he must worship Allah alone. Have you done anything in that case? You've wasted time with anything else. Because you're busy agreeing on anything which is secondary. What about the primary matter, which is the aim of your da'wah? That's what you must look for. And so you must know the condition of a person by asking questions, prompting questions. Right? We are out here, sharing some information, and we're also trying to find out who knows what, because we feel people don't know much about Islam, but what do you know? Some people will bring misconceptions of, Islam is an Indian religion, And then you think about how do you come to that? How do you come to that conclusion? Islam is an Indian religion. And so, because you want to see most Indians, okay, what about those people? What about those people? And whatnot. Now tell me if this is an Indian concept. People say there's only one creator, the Indian, the blacks, the whites, and whatnot. Is one God? There's a God for Indians and there's a God for black people. Is that so? Then they say, oh no, of course, God is for all of us. So how can the faith that really be specific to the religion, coming to the race? And so you start reading once again, going back to the concept. Because you want your shahada to be established there. You want to make sure the person has the necessary ingredients for a shahada. Because everything else follows after this, right? And so that's how, inshallah, it is important. And we see this when the Prophet sends Mu'adh ibn Jabal, radiallahu anhu, to Yemen. And he tells him, إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمًا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ فَادْعُوهُمْ إِلَى شَهَادَةِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَأَنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ فَإِنْهُمْ أَطَاعُوا فإنهم أطاعوا لذلك فاعلمهم أن الله افترض عليهم 5 صلوات بكل يوم وليلة, and the hadith proceeds from there. But what we are noticing here is that the Prophet ﷺ gave him the understanding of the condition of the people he's going to. That you are not going to just anyone, you are going to a group of people who are of this kind. Because already he understands what they believe in, he knows. If he's going to a Christian, he knows the belief system of the Christian. He's going to Jewish people, he knows them. And so, what does he tell them? What does he tell him to then invite them to? What is the first thing? The Shahada that there is none with the worship except Allah alone, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. This is the priority of the Dawah, this is the priority of my Dawah, and this is what the Prophet advised us with. And then when they conform to that, then you can tell them about Salah, then you can tell them about Zakah, then you can tell them about Hajj, and so on and so on. This is how a Dawah must try to go about his system. And if for those who are taking notes, inshallah, if you can just maybe put this hadith of so and so that it's easy for us to go through, because you might get left behind. Or if it's an ayah, just put the ayah number. Now, only a point. If you put the subject matter, just put the ayah number, and if it's a hadith, and if maybe we provided this hadith number what in what reference, you can just the hadith of Mu'adh, for example. This one here, you can say hadith of Mu'adh. Now, and then you can say in the reference book, and so that you also have something to go back to revise as well. Nah? You don't just copying everything here and say, I'm taking all the notes. Now, also the knowledge of the approach in giving da'wah. The knowledge of the approach, you must know how to do the da'wah. Now, as we said, maybe asking questions, maybe evaluating what people already know about Islam and so on, prompting questions. Or it could be, for example, you make programs, Dawah open programs, like tomorrow, inshallah, we're going to be having something like that in Binoni, inshallah, where you invite people. So we know, maybe you use your WhatsApp, maybe you use your, various other means, depending on your target and depending on your means of how, but you must know how to go about it. Allah tells us, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. Then you must what? Then invite your Lord with wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge and the ability to put things in their light, deserving places. This is what wisdom is. Like we said, if you're speaking to a Jewish person, then you know what subject to discuss with him. If you're speaking to a Christian person, you know what subject to discuss. You're speaking to someone, maybe he's going through life difficulties, you know what aspect of Islam you can tell them about. For example, we know that in the dhikr of Allah is what? Allah because this person is this content, this person is not. Then you tell him, listen, a person who's always denying and remembers about his creator, usually his heart finds peace. Someone will say, I don't know what happens with my wealth. Then you tell them there's barakah in the wealth. If you do 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see my point? And so every single thing you put in programming, and this is required as well. How do you approach this? How do you approach that? You could meet someone, and then you see that if I talk to them and tell them about the situation of their the conditions that they are in, for example, someone comes ask questions which are very critical, and if you answer them on the spot, it's going to be detrimental to how they accept what you're giving them or rejecting it. For example, you meet someone who's in a hurry, he's not in the right state of mind. You tell him, how about let's make an appointment, because what you're asking about is not something that is easily discussed in a short span of time. Now, so you can tell him, I see that you're in a hurry, and so how about we make an appointment? Then we can sit for coffee and then have this conversation, because it's not going to be a conversation that can be exhausted in 2 minutes. Someone may ask something a very deep and in-depth question, and there's a background to it, and you need to know. He might ask about something, and then there's parts of what he's saying I don't understand. And it's up to you that you decide, my brother, I think what you're asking about is a bit complex. And so how would you make an appointment where you have time and I have time, you can sit down and have this conversation. Sometimes maybe the setting does not allow you to have this conversation, because maybe he will accept it from you, but the people who are around him, they may be very affected by what you are telling them. You understand? Because it's a concern for him, but the rest, they don't like it. They didn't want to find out about these things. And so now, you create bad waters between you and his clique. You know what I mean? So you can isolate him, for example. Sometimes you have to isolate someone from the people that is coming because they are not on the same wavelength. And so you wanna, so that when you give it to him, there's no one else coming to interject and disturb the conversation. And we see this when public debates are happening, where people are just, like it's something that happens in the UK in Hyde Park, where people they engage in conversations and debates and whatnot. And then you have hecklers. You understand? So it defeats the purpose and so on. And so you want to see what is relevant and how to approach every situation. فقول له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى. This is another aspect with regards to this. Allah tells Musa alayhi salam that he wants, when he speaks to Pharaoh, he must speak in a particular way. Huh? The most evil of people who ever walked the earth, but Allah wanted to say to Musa and speak to him mildly. Perhaps he may accept the punishment of Allah. Sometimes someone is very haughty and very loud and whatnot, and you can't sometimes equal him in the loudness and in the, you see my point? And so sometimes you need to reciprocate and see, okay, he's coming from a militant perspective. How can I hit him with, softness and kindness and calmness? Because he might also end up mimicking you. He's like, why are you Muslims and this and whatnot and da 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 da. Maybe that question is not the time for you to answer, but it's for you to ask more questions on why he's asking this question and why does he think this is what Muslims are. Why are you Muslim? Oppress your women, and why are you Muslim? In all your countries, there's always fights and whatnot. And then you can ask the question, how have you concluded that all our countries are like this? Then he realizes that he's just speaking from ignorance. Then he takes a point. Okay, then what's actually happening? Because now he's willing to listen, correct? So sometimes someone is just there offloading, and sometimes you need to take it and just listen. Not always that whenever someone you have to respond and repeat and answer and run. And so all of these things that are necessary for the da'iyah to evaluate and check in these interactions. One of the things that we must understand is the fact that Allah gave, because Pharaoh was in a position of authority. Right? So he's not in a position of being told what to do. And more so when it is something he's not willing to be involved in because he's too high on his horse. And so the approach of like matching him is not the best. Because you are like a peasant and he's like the king, and so no peasant is going to come and speak loud and because it's going to tend to be something else than you giving in fact that hey, this person is unholy, does not respect my authority, take him into the dungeon, those kind of things. And so you have to have kindness. You have to have mildness. You have to, like, for example, speaking to an adult, someone who's older than you, who's going to feel disrespected when you match their tone, and you respond in the hostile way that they're speaking to you. And so when you show them respect, then they calm down, and then you have a reasonable conversation. You see my point? And so these are all some of the points we can speak about. And with regards to wisdom, as you mentioned, one of the things we see in the example of Musa alayhi salam is the fact that to sort of like, highlight more of what wisdom looks like, inshallah. When Musa alayhi salam had to have a battle with the magicians. Now, Allah says, قَالَ مَوْعِدُكُمْ يَوْمُ الزِّينَةِ وَأَنْ يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ ضُحًى. I want to go through all the ayat, then we will see what happens in this and where is the wisdom in them. Allah says that your appointment or your appointed meeting is the day of festival. Note that. He chose a particular day. He could have said tomorrow, I'm ready now. Okay? The issue of postponing certain interactions because it might be more effective some other time than not. And the person might be prepared to come and have a reasonable conversation. Maybe they're too heated up right now, they're angry, and so on and so on and so forth. Because we've seen this, people being hostile against Islam and they really don't have anything to stand on of why they are hostile against Islam because of misinformation and so on and so forth. So it says that, and let the people assemble when the sun has risen. There's another point here, it's the time. Place, date, time. Can you see that? Then Allah says, Yu'til hikmata man yasha. Allah gives wisdom to whoever He wills. وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. That Allah grants wisdom to whoever He pleases, and He, the one to whom wisdom has been granted, is indeed granted abundant good. But none remembers or receive admonition except men of understanding. Now, here are the things here. The fact that Musa alayhi salam gave a particular day, and the fact that Musa alayhi salam gave a particular time. Now, I want to throw it at you. What do you think is ideal about the day he has selected? He said the day of the festival. What do you think he maximized on? I'm giving you a clue. He maximized on something with choosing this particular day. Yes, everyone was not going to be busy with anything, correct? If today will be like it's a holiday, so no one is going to work. So there's a lot of availability for them. You get that? Now, what about the time? Mind you, it's a day of the festival, correct? And so the time is relevant there. Who can give us an idea what he thinks was the wisdom of that? Okay, correct. Anyone else on the issue of the time? No, the chef is saying, because people, in the morning, like their minds are still fresh, they are not busy. Mind you, it's a free day, so they are not busy. And also they have clear minds, like they are, they didn't have a long, busy day, because it's in the earlier part of the day, and it's a day they're not looking forward to anything in particular. So this is the time where they have free time and clear mind, like open mind, because anything can happen and so on and so forth. What else can we look at that when it comes to this? The time he has allocated is the time, because these ones are magicians, and magic has time where it's stronger and has times when it's weaker. For example, during sunrise and during sunset, this is when the jinn are very active, and also during the night. And so it shows the time where the jinn are obviously not the best. They are not at their prime during that time, and these are some of the reasons that can be employed. But also the fact that people will be available together. So it's a time that is not too early for people, to say, hey, we were late, we couldn't make it on time. And no, is it too late that no, we have other things, or we've been busy and we've been celebrating. And so this is how wisdom functions. And please understand that wisdom is given to people by Allah. And so it cannot be through our, prolific reading and high, intellectual prowess or anything like that. But it is through what? Through following the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is where the true wisdom is. And having the better understanding of these sources enables a person to be among the wisest of people. Because the pinnacle of wisdom is what? To recognize that you are a slave of Allah who should be worshipping Allah alone. And so even if you could be the most intellectual person, if you worship other than Allah, then you're not the wise. But rather you're a foolish person. Because the wisdom did not give you the understanding that the most important right is the right of Allah alone. And the most important right is the right of Rasulullah. And so wisdom requires that someone knows where to place things, isn't it? So this person is not wise because worship was supposed to be directed to who? To Allah. Where did he take it? To the idol, to the creation, and to his desires, and so on and so forth. So this is not the wisest person. Actually, this is not a wise person at all. That's what he said. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قَالُوا وَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لا يشعرون. نعم. أو لا يعلمون. نعم. They don't know. Because they were told believe. Because this is where wisdom is coming from. Having the correct belief and following the belief that was, the companions who had. Because they were the first primary Muslims who understood exactly what the Quran meant. Who understood exactly what the Prophet meant by saying whatever he was saying or doing whatever he was doing. You understand? So this is wisdom right there. And so the Quran is the source of that wisdom, and the Sunnah likewise. Now we just want to run down, because with respect to time, and we started a bit later one for that. We want to run down to some of the certain elements of the Dawah of the Prophet, and then we can probably benefit from that inshallah. Allah says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. And indeed the Messenger of Allah is the what? Is the best example. It's a very good example to follow him, for him who hopes in meeting Allah. Because once again we said our goal is to meet Allah, and Allah is pleased with us, and our goal is to get rewarded by Allah with a good reward, a great reward, as we said. Our da'wah is our worship as well. And so it requires that a Muslim, any aspect of Islam, whether it's dawah or anything like that, is connected to how Islam be. For example, the person wrote letters to certain individuals. Today we can write WhatsApp, right? Or put on our statuses. If you don't have the two direct, someone, but this person always use your statuses, then you can have your status running, your dawah. And so I advise that people of dawah, don't post anything and nonsensical things. And sometimes people they post something very important and very relevant and also something very nonsensical at the same time. So the people they are seeing you posting something very serious and that is arousing the mind and channeling the soul and reminding a person that hey, what am I doing about my life? And then after that you put a joke and then people they start laughing at those funny jokes and those funny videos and then they forget about everything. For example, you post about people must be reminded about death. Then right after that, you have, I don't know what's his name, Martin Lawrence, doing all the silly moves that he does sometimes. In the interim of people thinking about their death, and then your next status is like that. So I advise, please, if you have people who you go down, you're targeting them, and make sure your status is speaking and your posts on Facebook and your comments on Facebook as well. People commenting all these unnecessary things and they leave the most important things. That's why right now you can post about this problem, you're gonna get 2 likes. But post about someone doing some funny dance that's looking like a cartoon or anything like that, then see how many hits they get. You understand? And so you can't be back and forth in that. So you must know that you're an advocate of Islam in whatever that you do. And so try to be careful to post and what you share and so on and so forth. And writing to people. Some people, they need their business, you can send them an email, you can send them a message, and all those kind of things. You might not encounter them all the time, but your dawah must be not stop and it must proceed. Also, the dawah of the Prophet prioritized Tawheed and his prophethood, as we will see when he was advising Mu'adh bin Jabal. Same thing when he said to Ali, you did the same. From the beginning of his prophethood to the end of his prophethood, this is the standard message that was always there. You understand? So, meaning the priorities of Hidayah must be what the Prophet prioritized, which is the right of Allah and the right of his Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah says, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالُوا إِلَىٰ كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ فَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَقُولُوا اشْهَدُوا بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ. There Allah mentions that say to the people of the book, O people of the book, come to a word that is equitable between us and you, that we will not worship anyone or anything except who? Allah, and not associate anything with him, no partners whatsoever, and not to take one another as lords instead of Allah, meaning no one does what Allah does, like giving command, making what is halal, haram, and making what is haram, halal, and so on and so forth, anything that can be connected with that. But if they turn away from this message, then have them understand that you are a Muslim and you are on what you are calling to nonetheless. And so this is very, very important. And what we see here is the fact that the call is, all people of the book come to Tawheed. Let's agree on Tawheed. We agree on any other thing, but let's agree on Tawheed. There are many things we agree with the Christians about, correct? And with the Jews about. But unfortunately, it's not necessarily Tawheed. And so we focus on that. We focus on what we agree on, because it's secondary and it's complementary to this. But if you agree on this, then we should agree on the primary matter, which is Tawheed, the right of Allah to worship, and the prophethood of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is in Surah 3, Surah Al-Imran, verse 64. Verse 64. Now, the Prophet sallallahu, as you said in the hadith of Mu'adh bin Jabal, he told him, you will meet the people of the book and you call them to this. And he told him to prioritize the Shahada. And then after that, can be the Salah. Then after that, can be the Zakah. Like how the pillars are. It's number one for a reason. Shahada is number one in the 5 pillars of Islam for a reason. And it should be number one for us as well in our time. Unless something calls to, discussing the one particular pillar. For example, it's Ramadan, someone wants to find out, maybe guys are fasting in Ramadan, and then maybe you have to clarify. But you can always take it back. For example, someone says, why you guys fast for the whole month and one month? You say, you see, brother or sister, once you understand the primary aspect of Islam, you will understand why we do this. So a Muslim believes that there is only one true God, and he believes that he should serve this God and obey him and worship him and do whatever he gives us. And so also a Muslim does these things following how Prophet Muhammad is. For example, why 30 days and why you eat before the sun rises and you eat it? Say because the Prophet did it like that. You see my point? You could bring any other reason, it's healthy, it's very, the doctors, this is what people do to the answer. Say, why you guys fast? Because it's beneficial for our health. But is this the reason why Allah commanded us fast? No, the Allah commanded us so that you may have taqwa, recognize Allah and respect Allah and stay away from what He prohibits, and you are prolific and proficient in doing what He has commanded you. This is the main purpose of fasting. Even if you become chubbier after Ramadan, but as long as you know the pleasure of Allah, because sometimes some of us will go in like this in Ramadan, you come back like that. Right? Some of us going like that, some come up, anything can happen. Some people's metabolism is like that. So you can't say after us this one wasn't fasting. No, he was fasting. And probably fasting better than me, who's gone thin. And he won't help if I'm thin for nothing. Now, and so you always try to tie back. But why you have to do pilgrimage one because we as Muslims, when we declare that there is none worthy of worship besides Allah alone, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, we in effect are agreeing to any other being that is coming after that. So once you understand that we try to please Allah and this is something to think that pleases Allah, then the person will understand. You always take it back to the first pillar. Say, why do you guys have to give some portion of your wealth and whatnot? Why can't you just, take it off your family and one? When you embrace Islam, you find yourself to the right of Allah to worship alone. And so these actions that you are asking about, they are part of worshiping Allah alone. And these actions that you're talking about, how we're doing them, they are part of following the Messenger, the Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so when you see a Muslim doing, whether they're fasting, whether they're dressing this way, whether they are, giving zakah and so on, it's because of this first point, which is the shahada. You get my point? Take it back there. Even if you're going to explain Hajj and how it happens and when does it happen and whatnot, and what are the requirements, you see, the reason why we do this is that. So once you understand this, does it make sense to you that the one who created us has a right over us? Like how your parents have a right over you, that you respect them, right? Because they gave birth to you. So he has a greater right than your parents because he created you and your parents. Isn't it? And if you know that whatever he commands is good for you, would you not want to do it? They say, yeah, definitely. If I know he's advising you on something which is good, then this is what Muslims are doing. And so when they fast, they are not bothered by the fact that they are not eating for the whole day because they know that this is an advice, the one who knows better what is good for them. And so hence it came. Someone said, it's not reasonable. I have my own diet, and that's why you can't use the health aspect as your answer. He said, I have my own diet. I see my doctor, I don't know what they're called. What they called? Pediatrician. What is that? Dietitian. Come again? Dietitians, yes. The dietitian said, I see my dietitian, he gives me a nice problem. Why should I fast? You say, nah. You say, no, but because the creator. Why did he say that in the first place? You understand? And so this is now, so it's very, very necessary that we try to look at those aspects and to see that everything, try to take that talking and the result of the message of Allah. Try to bring it there. So before I answer this question, let me first explain something, this which is going to make you understand better why that thing that you're asking about. Someone may ask something which is very far, and if they don't understand these two methods, then they won't understand it. Because someone may say, I also pray, but why should I pray like how you pray? And they say, let me make a list. You see the Creator, when He created us, He has a purpose, and He has certain things that He likes to be done a certain way. And so how we learn that? We learn how the Prophet taught it to us. That's why we do not. Someone may ask you, why does your salah have to be in Arabic? You say, no, because when the Creator said Muhammad peace be upon him with the message of Islam and how to worship Him and how to please Him, we have to also learn the fact that these prayers must be performed in Islam. There's nothing to do with the prayer Muhammad was in Arabic. If Allah wanted the prayer to be in Zulu, you would have made Muhammad know Zulu and then teach him the prayer in Zulu. But the fact that he taught it like this, because this is something formal, and this is how Allah wants to accept it, and we submit to doing what this is Allah. Even if it were to be Chinese, we are going to learn it because Allah is more important than our preferences. You see my point? Every single thing. I'm just giving you like some nuances in that, but obviously you could use your own way of take it back. That's the point. So one of the things that Hidayah, which I've just mentioned, how to tailor the information in the level of someone's understanding. Maybe you're speaking to a doctor, you might want to make sure you refer to some of those aspects that he's very familiar with. For example, if you told someone We were all created from a clot of blood. This is general language. But if you speak to a doctor or a scientist, then you say, the zygote, you can say the fetus, and then whatnot. But you can't speak to a layman who's selling potatoes and what's it called? Tomatoes there on the street. You say, when the Creator created man, first he created him in a sperm cell and an egg cell, and they fertilize, and then meiosis happened, and mitosis happened, and then the zygote was made, and then this. You can't tell this process to this particular person. Why? Because this is far beyond you. Because you're going to end up explaining every single word you use it. This also comes to the point, use simple language in now. Use simple language. This is why the Quran would have mentioned in Surah Al-Ikhlas great words, about how Allah is and how great He is and whatnot. I said, He's not born, nor does He beget. Someone will say, He has no beginning, there is no end, He has ever existed, like infinite and whatnot, unlimited, this and that, not everyone is going to understand that. Use simple language, and the message goes across. It's understood by the simple one, and also the complicated one. Because even when something is complicated, what do we want after that? Simplify it for us. So why go to the complicated language and complicated word if you're going to still have to come back down to make it simple? Stick to the simple words, stick to the simple examples that anyone can relate to, and this is what a Dawah must try to do. Anas bin Malik reported that the Prophet said, when the Prophet would speak, he said that when the Prophet would speak, he would repeat himself 3 times until he was understood. And this is another thing, being emphatic in your speech, always going back to the same thing, going back to the same. If you've noticed as well, I didn't do it intentional, but you've noticed that our talking point has always been the Shahada and it's been a priority. Any other subject we touch, somehow we went there. Until it becomes clear to you that listen, whatever you're doing in your Dawah, speak from the Shahada perspective first, and then go to this other subject of Islam. And this is what we want. And so the Prophet ﷺ, this is how we want. He will repeat certain things. He will say them more than once. Until it's understood. Same with this khutbah, that's how they were. Certain words will repeat it more than once until it's very apparent to people, then they start understanding. And mind you, this is the hadith of Aisha. She mentioned that the discourse of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu was clear such that he was understood by everyone who had him. But we just spoke about it. The fact that your speech must be such that it does not confuse the simple guy. Because sometimes your Dawah may be targeting those who highlight and only it fall on those who are more simple. If you know the background of Tawalla and Jahal Ahmad, the Prophet was focused on the sheep and this thing, and the blind man, simple man came to the Prophet, and so you can understand that you must know that your Dawah must be tailored to everyone in their different levels. And so definitely if it's simple and it's basic, then even the most philosophical and most intellectual, sophisticated person, he doesn't need to take 5 years to figure it out. You can understand it from the word go. And also that's simple that. So when you speak, and the choice of words, for example, you could use certain terms and they may not be beneficial to your Dawah. For example, using Arabic words. Sometimes when someone is giving a lecture or a talk, uses Arabic words which he doesn't translate. Maybe someone is sitting there, it's the first time listening to any of this. So he's going to be worried about that word the whole time. And so we try to also avoid those kind of things. And as we said, that's the evidence for the Dawah is what? Is what is in the Quran and what is in the Sunnah. And this is what the Sunnah provides. And we ask Allah that He makes us to follow the Sunnah of the Messenger in all our deeds and our actions, in all our practices and our Dawah, and in all our what you call evidences that the Prophet used the Quran himself as a proof. He used the Quran and himself as an evidence for Islam. Now, why? Because people have been given the knowledge of what is in the Bible, people have been given what is in the Torah, in the Talmud, but when you get with any of them, we tell to them from what was the victory. You see the point? To show that the Quran suffices because it's revealed for mankind, not for Muslims. It's revealed for all of mankind, and so it is a proof, it's a hujjah on everyone, it's an evidence for everyone. And so when you take from that, inshallah, then you will know that you have used the best that is, and that is said, how do you find Islam if you were not born from a Muslim family? It was through something that I said in the Quran. Some of us, we said the Quran and then we became Muslim. Like myself, that's how I found Islam. I read the translation of the Quran and I was impressed with what I found and I became Muslim. I could have said, no, show me Islam from the Bible because I was a Christian at the time. Then it would have defeated the purpose because then I would say, oh, the new Christianity makes provisions for this. then why should I be Muslim? If you say my Bible says it, then why should I listen to what the Quran is saying? Because I have it in my Bible. It means the Bible suffices me. And that's why I'm saying that prioritize the Quran and the Sunnah as the means to ask Allah to make us those who follow the footsteps of the Messenger and to keep us steadfast upon the Sunnah. And also Allah gives the bounty. Allah is capable of all that. Let's be seeking and to accept it from us, to revive our hearts, and to give us a huge drive in the aspect of keeping it down. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.